This was either on Soi 21 or Soi 23 of Sukhumvit Road. Although it was not a 5-star hotel, it was quite luxurious by my standards, which was a 3-star motel in Australia. The first night was pretty tame. After having a couple of Singer beers in the hotel bar, I went up to my room. I was surprised when one of the bellboys knocked on my door and inquired if I would like some female company later that night. I declined the offer of company, instead enjoying a book and a good night's sleep. If only I knew then what I know now. The next morning I was a man on a mission. I had heard of a place called Patpong. I was going to get there at any cost. I looked at a map and thought this is not a long walk from my hotel to Patpong. So after breakfast about 9 a.m. I turned right out of the Impala Hotel, made a beeline for Sukhumvit Road. My first impressions on Bangkok were amazing. It was polluted, hot, busy, claustrophobic, but from that moment I fell in love with it. Bangkok was a city where everything is possible. You never know what is around the next corner, the sights, the smells. It was just so much different to my previous experiences in the UK and Australia. Taxis and tuk-tuks constantly stopped and asked me if I wanted a ride. I was quite certain I knew where I was going after about 2 hours of walking in Bangkok. Pre-MRT or SkyTrain, I was starting to have doubts if Patpong even existed. The heat, humidity and pollution was starting to get to me. I jumped in a taxi at that point and just got in and asked to be taken to Patpong. I didn't barter on a price, so a 20-minute taxi ride cost me 400 baht. Later, I was in Patpong 1. Like I said, I made every newbie mistake possible. It was just after midday when I went into my first bar and had a couple of very cold singers to rehydrate. Looking back now, the bars were pretty quiet and tame at that time of the day. Being new in town, I thought I'd found a treasure chest. Over the period of the next 3 hours, I hit about 4 bars. I only remember the name of one though. It was the Ban Bar. I had drinks with numerous girls and I bought quite a few ladies' drinks. I could not believe that all of these stunning ladies were so happy to see me. I got all of the usual stories such as, I've only been working here for 2 days and I just have drinks with a few guys. I don't go out with customers, etc. But you're special. If you want me to go back to your hotel, I can. At that time, the effects of many drinks, tiredness and Bangkok's excitement in general started to hit me hard, but I bar-fined one of my new friends. There was a condition: the girl had to be back in the bar by 8 p.m. Without going into any of the details, the next 2 to 3 hours was enjoyed by all. My new friend said she really needed a new pair of shoes. I, like a knight in shining armour, came to her rescue. The shoes and her fee cost me a considerable amount of money, but I was young and had experienced Patpong. The girl left and I guess returned to work. It was all now catching up with me, but I thought I was onto a winning streak. I decided to venture into the bar downstairs that worked too, so a quick massage and extras and I had a good night's sleep. In the morning I thought I'd better go back to Patpong and have a slow look around, but would have a swim first to freshen up in the hotel pool. I was doing a few laps and looked up and my friend from the previous day was there, smiling and waving. I guess I was happy, but it would have been nice to explore Patpong properly. We had a coffee and she asked if I would like to do some sightseeing in Bangkok. I was happy to do this and we did some of the major sites, had lunch on the river. My new friend then asked me if I would like to come back to her place and see her family. She had a very young son and a brother. We found our way back to a very run-down wooden house somewhere in Bangkok. It looked terrible from the outside. When I walked in, I was surprised as the inside was very clean and nothing out of place. I was greeted by a young child about 18 months and a 20-something brother. We actually had a very good time. The brother went out to buy some food and some beers and we sat drinking and communicating as best as we could for a few hours. After this, I gave my friend some money for the day, this time not too much, then we parted ways. I guess she left for work in the bar. I went back to my hotel to prepare for an early morning flight to Copenhagen and on to London. This was a tame story, but it was the opening for me to start my love affair with Thailand and the Thai people. Like many, I could never get the memories and experiences of Thailand out of my mind. When I told my friends in the UK and Australia about the possibilities in Thailand, very few even believed me, and even less were keen on experiencing it. It was maybe 2 years after my initial trip that I decided to return to Thailand. I had found a good drinking friend in Australia, and he had always wanted to travel to Thailand. He had almost gone a couple of times previously, but he had been let down by his close friends. We planned a trip, but this time we were going to do a package tour and take advantage the airfare and hotel combinations offered. We were going to Singapore for 3 nights, then flying to Phuket for 7 nights, and then off to Bangkok for 5 nights. So the big day gets here, both of us were at the airport 4 hours before the flight on Thai Airways takes off. A few beers and we would start our first leg of the trip to Singapore. As I said, we were part of a package tour, but we were really not too concerned about the benefits of the package for the first day, or so we really just wanted to get to the city centre and then get out to a couple of bars. At this stage, the Tropicana and the Jockey Club came highly recommended. We dumped our bags and were out in just over an hour. We ended up meeting and getting intimate with one Malaysian girl and one Thai girl, and in less than 3 hours we were back in our hotel bar reflecting on what had just happened within the last 12 hours. We kind of went our own way for the next 3 days without doing any of the tours or dinners with the group. We thought we would join the group for the trip back to the airport and the flight to Phuket. When we did join the group, they thought we were fictitious as we had not been involved in any other activities. There was some complaining from a few of the group about our behaviour with the females in Singapore, but isn't that the point of going to Southeast Asia? Next stop, Phuket. Well, Phuket in 1985 was very different to how it has developed today. Bangla Road was a dirt road but still had bars. Patpong Beach was clean and you could still catch lobsters in some of the sheltered bays. We stayed at Rahway Beach but made it across to Patpong a few times. Rahway Beach was very quiet then, and there were some nice islands just offshore. My friend and I loved Phuket so much we decided to come back to stay for longer the next year. Our 5-day stay in 1985 was great, but we did have one very scary experience. We hired a taxi driver for the day to take us around the island and to have an evening in Patpong. Though the day my friend and myself indulged in quite a few beers and started on the Thai whiskey around sundown. We were getting on well with the taxi driver and he became the third member of our group, and we bought quite a few drinks for him. We did not realise it, but he was becoming quite drunk. After midnight, we decided to return over the hill back to our hotel. We jumped in the taxi like a bongo van for our trip home. Sometime on the trip over the very steep hill, we both shouted, "Oh crap," as we could see the headlights of a big truck heading for us. After that, all went blank. I remember waking up on the road with lots of Thai faces looking down at me and my friend shaking me, asking if I was okay. We hit the truck head on. The taxi was totally destroyed. The funny thing was, my friend and me had exactly the same injuries but to different sides of our body. Dislocated right shoulder, bruised ribs, cut eye, bump on the head for me on my right side, but for my friend on the left side. It could have been so much worse. I think because we were pretty drunk, we absorbed the crash better than if we would have been sober. The locals helped us into another taxi and sent us back to our hotel. The taxi driver was fine as he jumped out of the taxi before the crash. The next day, when the alcohol wore off, we were certainly in a lot of pain and everything ached. We went to a local clinic for a checkup and had some stitches. Over the next few days, as the bruises emerged, it looked like we had gone a few rounds with Mike Tyson. We did not let this get in our way of a good time, and actually the local girls and massage ladies treated us with quite a bit of respect. I guess the moral of the story here is to not involve the taxi driver in serious drinking when he is working. We went back to visit Phuket a few more times, and every time I return it gets a little bit more busier. Phuket is not as charming or as friendly as it was back in 1985, but I guess that is progress. The last leg of the 1985 trip was back to Bangkok for 4 nights, which is another story that I'm happy to tell if your viewers would like to hear it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't know if you're watching this, the guy who wrote it in, but you know, the more stories sent in, the better it is. And I personally, I'd love to hear it. I do like to hear these stories from, you know, the 80s and the 90s. And if you're a person who enjoys Thailand, you've been traveling there, but you've only been going for sort of 5-10 years, it's so hard to explain to people how different it was. I first arrived in Thailand, I think it was 91, 92. And even then, we're talking, what, 32, 33 years ago. It was so different. You know, it was much more charming than it is today. You know, when I go there now, I still love the country. I love the people. It's a great place to visit, or I wouldn't go there. But it seems to be going the same way as a country like Singapore. Very developed, everything works properly. You know, I think it's lost a lot of its charm. Thai people used to, they were different towards foreigners. They're not unfriendly now. It's still the land of smiles, but it's just really hard to explain. You know, I've got memories from the early 90s, and this guy's talking about the sort of early 80s. I'd love to have visited Thailand in the early 80s. It must have been so nice back then.